change. They want me to change, but I ain't changing. Nah, I remain the same.
And you are now tuned into another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you in conjunction with A Beautiful Machine magazine, as well as the mighty Nerd DJs Radio Network. You already know, man. Week after week, day after day, year after year, we only rock with legends around here. And today is absolutely no exception. Yo, so make sure I get some of this right. We got the founder of Detroit Music Collective, the K2 Artist Management, entertainment sponsored group. And yo, when you hear this cat's resume of artists he's worked with, it's unparalleled in the music industry. One of the best additions to music business since the ink pen. We got Kevin K coming to the conversation. How you doing?
I'm good. I need one of those pens now.
Yo, so how's your family, man? How's life?
Life is good. Life is good. I'm just ready for spring. Oh, good gosh.
Yeah.
I'm like over this. I feel like I'm living back where I'm from, Buffalo, New York.
Oh, Buffalo's. We got nothing on Buffalo. Like Buffalo's crazy with the snow.
Oh yeah. I mean, literally, you know, I can't tell you how many times you wake up and there's 4.5 feet of snow on the ground all overnight. Crazy.
Oh, okay, so I've only got an hour, so I can't possibly cover everything that you have done.
Oh.
But let's say, at what point did you decide that you wanted to be in the business end of music?
Good question. You know, I just like so many other artists, you know, I was playing in bands and we always had the dream to try to get signed. And literally, I woke up one morning and I said to myself, you know, is it really going to happen? And I was very comfortable with my decision. I said no.
Mm.
And I decided to stop playing and I wanted to focus on the business side. You know, I thought I was smarter than our manager and I thought I was smarter than our booking agent. At the time, I was debating whether to go to law school. I already had my pre-law degree and I was working as a paralegal. And I was going to go to law school, thought being an entertainment attorney was the next logical step for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, nope, law school is just not for me. And I said to myself, okay, I need to understand the business of the music industry. I'm an artist. I get that. I know how to live in those shoes. I had a legal background, even though I wasn't an attorney. I had been working for law firms. I was being a legal assistant. I was understanding that world so I could have intelligent conversations in the legal world with attorneys. And I needed to learn the business side. So I went back and then got my degree in music and entertainment management. And quickly, even while I was going to school, I got my first job at Chrysalis Records. So I was working at Chrysalis and going to school. That morphed into working at Polygram Records and working as an assistant for Mercury Records.
Let me back you up just a little bit. Chrysalis, first band you worked with at Chrysalis that was successful.
Okay, so the very first project I got to work on Was Not Was.
Okay, you got it. I'm not the biggest. I'm assuming that's rock.
Well, what Don was, it was his band from here from Detroit. And, you know, I didn't really know who they were, but, you know, was it Walk the Dinosaur was the first single that they were working. And that's when I kind of joined and was able to start working on that project. But at the time, we had Huey Lewis, we had Billy Idol, Sinead O'Connor, Pat Benatar. So
what's Sinead O'Connor like?
You know, I love that woman. I mean, her passion, her foresight, everything that she did, truly from the heart. And, you know, she had a lot of challenges with her career. And, you know, she stood tall every single time. Anything that she did, you know, it's sorry that she has left this world. But, you know, she was an awesome artist, really brilliant.
As a young brother from Detroit, it was just something about Sinead O'Connor that just seemed authentic.
Yeah. Different. Think about how unique she was, how left of center.
Oh,
was her
crazy.
music for the
And
time.
singing a Prince song, no less.
Yeah.
Crazy work. Yo, so when an artist comes to you and they say, I want to sing somebody, I want to sing an iconic song, do you cringe?
No, I
Or
mean, look, everyone, each artist, if they're going to do something, they're going to have their own flavor to it. They're going to do it in their spirit. And, music is about emotion. It's about
Mhm.
making connections. And if there's a song that connects and it's been, a big song, if it's done before, an iconic song, that built-in connection is there. How you improvise it and put it into your own flavor, it only adds to the legacy of what that song is.
The Goo Goo Dolls.
Mhm.
Were you there in the beginning, or did you come kind of when it was like the train was already rolling?
No, I started working for the booking agency. We were booking them. They were still just a punk band in Buffalo. I mean, a lot of people don't realize they were a heavy, heavy punk band. And we started working with them. They were just playing local gigs. We made the decision that we could get them into colleges. So those guys were making maybe $400 a night at a club. All of a sudden, we were getting them $3,000 to play
Yo,
colleges, and it really helped jettison. They didn't get signed until when did that happen? Maybe 91. I started working with them, maybe 92. They got to Warner Brothers. They had been signed to Metal Blade Records,
mhm.
um, which was a very heavy rock label at first. And yeah, when Superstar Car Wash came out, was the first Warner Brothers release. I believe I want to say 92. But it really wasn't until Name came out that they truly exploded. But, I grew up with Johnny. We're from the same neighborhood. A little fact about my neighborhood is that down the street from me, Corey Wells, the lead singer of Three Dog Night, lived down the street from me. Johnny from the Goo Goo Dolls lived a block and a half over, and 5 blocks the other way was Rick James.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Nope, that's my neighborhood. That's where I'm from.
So did you know Rick James, or you just knew he
I gotta
grew up
check.
in that
No,
neighborhood?
I knew him somewhat. We knew a little bit. He and I knew a little bit of each other, and
Mhm.
but then as soon as he hit, he took off for LA. The neighborhood was not happy with him because he was making things happen, and he really wasn't paying attention to anything back home, especially his mom, who was
Mm,
still living, we grew up in a very rough neighborhood. Think
okay,
the neighborhood I grew up in, think of it no different than east side of Detroit.
gotcha.
It was exactly where we grew up. And his mom was still struggling and he wasn't taking care of her, even though he was, making it big. And the neighborhood was pissed off at him because of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know. Yo, I did not know that. Okay, so and I got ADHD, so I'm kind of all over the place. And I
Right.
cut you off, Chrysalis. What was the next gig after that?
So Polydor Records. And then I was at Polygram. So I was working as an assistant at Polydor and Mercury. And then I was in Atlanta at the time.
Mhm.
There were some changes and I was let go. I went back to Buffalo. That's when I started working with the Goos, doing that. But then, I stayed in touch with all the people at Polydor Records. And about a year and a half later, they contacted me and said, "Look, we have an opening. Are you interested?" And I interviewed, with the new senior vice president
Mhm.
at Polydor and got the job. And then they moved me to Houston. So I became the regional director of marketing and promotion based out of Houston, covering most of Texas and then Florida, all the way to the Florida Panhandle. So
Okay,
Louisiana,
does that kind
Mississippi,
of suck
Alabama.
though?
Pardon?
Because it seems like you went from rock to country. Did that suck, or was that like? Do you feel like I'm not necessarily in my lane?
Well, I mean, at Polydor, we were, mainstream. I didn't work country until I got to Sony Music Nashville.
Okay, okay,
So that was later in my career, and I'm, spent 2 years in Nashville. That was different for me because I've always been a rock guy, pop guy. So to go into country was definitely different. It's definitely a different genre. Musically, I was, not as smart about it, but I
Yeah.
also was, I was the national director of strategic partnerships. So my job, it was a new position that was created at Sony. I
Mm.
was charged with bringing brands to partner with our artists,
Mm.
and
That's
now,
got to be really easy for country music.
well, at the time, now it seems easy, but back then it was still, new to the music industry. Remember, the music industry for many years was bringing brand sponsors was taboo. The big line, I'm not going to sell out. I don't want to sell out. While the sports industry was bringing in sponsors and brands all the time, making millions of dollars in revenue using their, the big brands marketing platforms to help further what they were doing. But the music industry still was very taboo, and
Yeah.
I started a brand sponsorship division when I was at DreamWorks Records. And that was, a challenge in itself. And I remember sitting down with our artists and managers, and they always push back on me like they don't want to sell out. And my reply to them was, you already did. Well, I said you signed a contract with a big multi corporation, right?
Yeah.
Being DreamWorks. So what's the problem? I would always say, look, I would look, and they might be wearing, Nike.
You're
And
right.
I'm like, well, you support Nike. Well,
Let's
what's
make
the
some money
difference?
off of it.
Why couldn't we partner with Nike? They're looking for marketing opportunities, and to tie into music, it makes a lot of sense.
Is
Papa
there an
Roach.
art? I'm sorry, but is there an artist or artists that you feel really changed the dynamic for the good as far as the marriage between music and branding?
Well, some of the biggest early ones, of course, was Michael Jackson with Pepsi. That was a big campaign. You
That was
had
huge.
you had Sting, and I'm trying to think who he partnered with. Um, Darn, it's gonna elude me now, but he was one of the early ones too. And when I was at DreamWorks, we had DreamWorks Records, but they had DreamWorks Country. And the head of marketing at the time, John Rose, did a great deal with Ford for Toby Keith. And Toby
Oh,
Keith, who was a big artist in his right at Mercury Records, but when Mercury let him go, he was basically sitting on the streets. DreamWorks decided to sign him. He had nothing going on, and his career really was faltering. They did that big deal. And if you remember, Ford spent millions of dollars in television advertising and took Toby Keith to a whole different level that he never had at Mercury Records, even in his prime. That
mm,
just goes to show that you the power of what can happen when you partner with a brand. If the partnership is right, working together to further everyone's objectives and
yeah.
initiatives for success, if it's done the right way, the consumer wins, the brand wins, and the artist wins. Connect those three dots, and you will have success.
Biggest rock and roll moment you personally witnessed?
Mm. Well, I was privileged when I was at Island Records to work, three different projects with U2. And when they went on the Zoo TV tour, which was Achtung Baby, which really jettisoned them to a whole
Mm,
different stratosphere. Being part of that tour and watching, the mind-blowing stage presence and all the video and everything that was going on, it became such a different type of experience for a concert goer. You weren't just watching a band, you were watching an event that had never been done before. And to work on that tour, and then the pop tour, those were just really cool moments. And the opportunity to sit and talk with those guys, and they were just so nice and humble. And their management team was brilliant. They treated everyone like kings and queens, and it was just great to work in that type of atmosphere. It was a lot of fun.
okay, so we talked about Google. YouTube is great. People of just, I don't think people really understand. And again, not I can't say I've ever listened to a YouTube album.
Mhm.
But I saw the shit that they was doing on MTV,
Oh yeah.
and there was absolutely maybe Guns N' Roses would be a comparable comparison, but they had a wave unlike any rock group I think I personally have seen.
I say it today. They put out new music and it sounds as relevant today as it did when they first came out. I mean, they're just timeless. They've always been ahead of the curve in everything that they do, from their songwriting to their recording to their tours. They are always ahead of the curve and setting the standard.
I would say Beck is another one just like that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it today. Think about the groups coming out today. How many of the groups coming out today are going to have the kind of longevity that a U2 has, or Rolling Stones, or AC/DC, or any of these other legacy acts that are out there? Who's going to be relevant 15, 20 years from now that's out today? I don't know if that's happening. It's going to happen maybe a little bit, but not to the extent that it was.
Richard Branson.
Mhm.
So you meet this guy, right?
I did. Yeah, when he started V2 Records,
Mhm.
he had Virgin Records. He sold Virgin Records, but he had a 5-year non-compete that he could not, part of the deal was that he was not going to get back into the music business. And then he started V2 Records in 97,
Mhm.
and I was, I think, second or third person hired to help, build that thing up. And yeah, I got it. We had, a couple of weeks with him as we are building this and getting ready to get things going. And, to be able to sit with him, and just listen to him and learn from him, and, just the leadership that he had, and the care that he had for
Mhm.
people. That was one of the biggest things that I took away, was that here's this guy bigger than life, and yet it's no different than you and I talking right now. That's how it really felt. I mean, it was that comfortable, that down to earth, that genuine and authentic.
Okay, completely off the rails question, but what's the difference between hanging out with a billionaire and hanging out with a millionaire?
Huh. There's no difference at all. It's like, and I've had this conversation with, presidents of record companies and some of the big artists I work with. There's we're people. There's two differences between myself and
Mhm.
Bono. He makes a hell of a lot more money than me, and he's a celebrity because the press has put him in that spot. Other than that, if I hit him in the face, it's going to feel no different than if I hit you in the face. We're people. No different, man. No different. Those are the two differences between us, really. And I've always viewed that is that these are people. I'm not starstruck at all by anybody.
Never?
No, never. What?
Come
Because
on, it gotta be somebody. Elton fucking John, bro. It gotta be somebody where you're like, oh wow.
I mean, you have that, oh wow, but I'm not afraid, because I know that they're just individuals and they have a job to do, no different than me. And we're part of the team. And I just viewed it that way. I viewed that, and I mean, that's just me, I guess. I just look at things a little bit differently than a lot of people in this industry. Um, just because I always went into it like we're all people.
I, what I have noticed, and because I've been doing this for a little while, and like especially the early days, there's so and so was a name. Well, after you get a couple names, so the names don't necessarily. It's cool, but then you narrow it down. Like if I talk to I don't know who's Patti LaBelle. I talk to Patti LaBelle, I'm pissing myself.
Mhm.
Because it's just some people that I'm always going to fan out over. So that's,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, I get what you're saying. You kind of normalize it.
Well, you get, like I said, I don't know if you get used to it. It's not, I don't know how to, sometimes I get tongue tied in how to explain it, but I just go into it differently, I guess. Even though I wanted to be that individual trying to get signed and maybe be a star, but at the other side, it's still, I always go back, and maybe this is my upbringing, that we're all just people And there's really, we need to just be who we are. And, even growing up, I got a chance to, meet some of the, athletes who I followed, in Buffalo. And it was always really nice and cool to meet them. But I wasn't like, oh my God, I just met somebody.
Not even Jim Kelly.
Oh, I never met Jim, actually.
Yeah.
What's
old boy that missed the kicks? What's his name?
Who was that?
The old boy that missed the kick in for the Bills.
Oh, Scott Norwood? Okay.
Scott Norwood.
Killing me now, man. You're killing me.
I feel
Bringing
so
up
bad
bad memories.
I feel bad for that guy though. Like, it's
What's so funny? He's in some commercials now, which is pretty funny. I forget what brand. I see him on TV. He's doing some commercials. It's pretty funny. So, look, it is what it is. I don't blame him. It should have never came to that. And look, if they could have stopped OJ Anderson and not if the Giants didn't hang on to the ball the whole second half because we couldn't stop them, it should have never came to that. And actually, if we had 20 more seconds, because we were like on the 15-yard line, Kelly took us down the field in no time just to get that field goal. If we had 20 more seconds, it wouldn't have been a 47-yarder, it would have been a 27-yarder.
What's worse, getting there 4 times and losing or never getting there?
I think maybe never getting there. I mean, I help people say all the time, man, you're so lucky. People here in Detroit, friends of mine, oh man, you guys at least got there. We've never gotten there. What's it like to be there? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. But, at the same time, they didn't get over the hump. But, look, I don't know if any team ever goes 4 straight again. I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
No. But losing, no, I guarantee a team may get there 4 straight, but losing 4 straight will never happen again.
That's just, each game was its own screw up somewhere along the line.
Oh my God. Okay, so founder of the Detroit Music Collective. What exactly is that?
That's a new company that we started, myself and Mike Jackery. Mike moved back here a few years ago. He spent nearly 20 years in LA as the senior vice president of marketing for the Universal Music Group. He's a Detroit guy. Myself, Michelle Elliott is one of our senior advisors. She just retired from Universal Music Nashville after 17 years. She also spent many years at Warner Brothers Records, Columbia Records, Capitol Records. And Scott Myrick, who comes from the touring and production side, he worked with Warren Treaty, Tantric, Billy Strings in the early days, and most recently owned Otis Supply, that venue in Ferndale. And we all came together. It's weird. I hadn't seen Mike or Michelle in a while. And when I heard Mike move back, we sat down and I told him I was, wanting to start to do music business seminars because I really miss teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I was the chair of the music business and entrepreneurship department at the Detroit Institute of Music Education and was also an adjunct professor. And I really miss teaching young artists about the business. And now that Dime is gone and it's closed its doors, there's a hole here. And I thought about doing just seminars. And when I told Mike what I was doing, he's like, man, I want to start to give back. I've been thinking about this. Can I join you?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sure, that'd be great, man. Let's start to do this. And then I'm at a show at Otis Supply, and all of a sudden Michelle walks in, and I hadn't seen her. And I said, what are you doing? She goes, I just retired, and I'm looking to do something. What are you doing? And I told her what my plans were. And she said, oh my gosh, I would love to be a part of this and help the independent music community here. I said, join us. She said, sure. And then she introduced me to Scott, who owned the venue. And, we were going to do our seminars there because he had a great stage sound. He had video. We were going to be able to really do it the right way. And then him and his partner made a decision to sell the venue. So we kind of lost that. But I've always had the idea for the collective that I wanted to do. And I, thought about that even when I moved back here from Nashville is when I first started thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're an independent artist or you want to get into the industry, where do you go to for help?
I mean, barring somebody else that's already in the industry, you generally don't have much assistance.
Right. There is no organization, and when Dime opened their doors and I was selected to run that department, I thought this could be the place. And we tried to have the conversations with them to be more than just a 4-year college, but they didn't want to go down that road. And now that they're gone, there is no organization. So what we're going to do, the Detroit Music Collective, the foundation of what we do is music business and entrepreneurship education. So we're going to have, that department. We're actually going to take that 4-year curriculum that Dime had and transpose that into certificate courses so people can get through this easily and quickly. We formed an alliance with the Ross School of Business at Michigan and their entrepreneurship department to work with us on that end as well. Secondly, our second division is our artist development and artist management coaching and mentoring. So if an artist needs help with the development of their career or certain aspects from a management perspective, they'll be able to have one-on-one time with myself or any of our staff. And the other coaches that we're bringing in are all other former record company executives that live here in the area. They've all worked for major labels that most people have no idea still exist here, because every major record company had a branch office here in Detroit. Warner Brothers, Sony, BMG, Polygram, Universal.
Why'd that change though?
Well, as the industry changed, there was no more need for that, right? As everything started going more digital, they didn't need branch offices to run anything. And as consolidation started to happen, everything started to dwindle. So the branch offices went away. I think Universal was the last one to close their doors, maybe about 10 or 12 years ago.
That's why music is so ass now.
And it's different. But all of these branches employed anywhere from 75 to 150 people. Most of those people still live here. And most people in the independent music community have no idea that myself, people like myself or Mike or anybody on our team or some of these other, individuals still live here. So we're going to be bringing in a lot of these people to be our coaches. So if you if an artist or an young industry professional wants to learn certain things, they can have one-on-one time. Then we're going to have our own label, which is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be a very collaborative and kind of cooperative label where all artists that are signed to the label are going to share in the profits of the label. All artists.
Sounds like La Russell. Are you familiar
with who?
La Russell.
No.
So it's a rap. He's a rap artist. And somebody has a question for you. I'm gonna ask that in a second. But he's a rap artist out of Vallejo, and he actually said you can actually buy a percentage of his songs, like an individual song.
Yeah.
And he gives concerts and doesn't give you a ticket price. You pay what you want.
Yeah, that's a big thing. There's a company called Song Trust that Songvest.
Okay.
And where they have a plethora of artists, and if you want to buy into part of their publishing, you're able to invest into them and get a return on the songs.
Yo, I think that's one of the dopest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's where it's at. So artists are going to share in the profits. They're going to market each other, and we'll take a page out of Motown Records and put our own artists on the road so we can help them grow their careers and not have to worry about fighting with other labels or other management companies out there. And then we'll have our live event and brand and entertainment division. We're going to be doing our own live shows, scripted shows, unscripted shows. We're creating our own live stream network. So think of it as a cable network with different channels. Our courses will be, we'll be teaching live and live streaming them. We're going to create our own branded entertainment division where we'll be consulting with big brands on music initiatives to help integrate independent artists and their music into commercials, into some of the big experiential events that big brands do. And, work with other clients. For instance, if a festival's happening and they are looking to live stream, well, they can work with us and we'll live stream it through our network. So the collective is about helping the independent music community, be it artists or young industry professionals, build viable and sustainable careers.
Okay, so A Sono of YHWH says, how will AI technology impact the industry?
Well, we're already seeing that right now. And, it's look, AI is a help, but I don't they've never really controlled that. I mean, when you have now AI songs being nominated for Grammys, I don't think that's fair.
It's horrible.
I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
Music is written by individuals from the heart, not from the computer. And I'm not in agreement with any of that, of what's happening. I'm sad that the the individuals who invented AI didn't think this through. They just put it out there because they wanted to get it out there, and now all the problems are happening. So, look, it can't be stopped. So I think artists can use it as a tool to help give them maybe, look, everyone who's a creator out there runs into, creative blocks. And
Yeah.
sometimes, AI could,
It's
be
a
that
cheat code.
it could be that tool to say, hey, here's some ideas. Think about that, right? And then the artist should take the idea maybe and run with it and do their own thing. But to create, specifically just AI stuff, by just putting something in the computer and letting them do it, no,
Horrible.
that's not fair. I'm sorry.
I don't know if it could have been stopped, but it damn sure could have been prolonged significantly.
Yeah.
I don't get like Timberland put out an AI artist. It's so fucking embarrassing. Like, you're one of the best producers of your era, and this is what you resort to. And I've talked about this. This is just trash shit to do for me. I can't understand how any creative would be okay with cheating the system.
I mean, look, there's so much great music out there, so much music that deserves a shot, right? But it is a numbers game, unfortunately. Um, but to have something taken like that by just through AI and not be, a real artist ever given that chance, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. So this is a question I ask everybody that comes on the show. Has absolutely nothing to do with nothing. However, here goes. You're sitting on a park bench, and God sits down next to you, and he or she says you can ask them one question. What would it be?
Why is there so much negativity in this world at this very moment?
Is it more now, or we just got more cameras?
No, I mean, I just think, the world has just gotten so much worse. And it's, I don't know, that's a topic that can get really crazed right now, I think, given, the state of not only this country, but what's happening around the world. And, it's like all bets are off, all filters are off, anyone can do whatever they want. And maybe social media had a big play in a lot of that, giving people a voice when they really shouldn't have been given that voice.
Yeah. Or being able to purchase a voice.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. I think the majority, especially in this country, are seeing what minorities have been seeing for years now. And it's changing all of us collectively on one side as opposed to the other. But I think it's in the long run maybe doing us all some good.
Well, maybe hopefully certain individuals will learn from these things and, maybe see things in a different lens and get a better understanding of what humanity is about.
Joe. Okay, so is there a particular 1,000 years people dig up Kevin K? What do you want the picture of you to be?
I just think, I want people to think about, me as somebody who cared and tried to make a difference and tried to help. I made a, for me right now, look, I've been privileged with my career. You know, I've been lucky, privileged, honored to have done what I've done, work with the people I've worked with, the artists that I've worked with. For me now, it's about how do I give back? How do I help, you know, the independent music community, younger artists, younger industry professionals, you know, help build their careers? I made a promise to myself, you know, when I got into the business side,
Mm-hmm.
that I would always listen. If somebody gave me music, I always listened to it. I always would give my opinion. If they asked for help, I do what I could because I was once that artist looking for that same help. A lot of times didn't get it.
Yeah.
But I became one of those people, one of those individuals who broke through that golden inner circle to work for a major record company and do what I did for so many years. I made a promise to myself, and I've kept that promise, you know, to this day. Look, you can go to my websites. My phone number's there. My email's there. I am an open book. You want to talk? Reach out. I'm not one of those, you know, how many websites you go to, you can't find any contact information of somebody.
Probably mine.
I'm like, no, man, I'm open. You reach out to me, you're going to hear back from me, you know, and I hope that people, you know, think of me in that way, that I'm here to help. And that's why we're all doing this with the Music Collective, because all four of us are at that point in our career. All of us have had brilliant careers for many, many years, and we all want to give back. And this is the way we've figured out how to do this, to be that epicenter organization here in Detroit that you can go to for help and learn and help build your career.
Most important no you've said in your career.
Most important no. Okay. This is what, when I, you know, in between my time after, you know, when I was at Chrysalis and before I moved back to Buffalo, I interviewed for a job with a major record company. And I thought the interview went great. So much so that the senior vice president at the end of the interview looks at me and says, "You have been the best interview I've ever had in my entire career." And I'm sitting there thinking, I got this job.
Right.
But he said, "No, I'm not going to hire you because you're just too nice to do this line of work." I was very disappointed. But at the same time, I said to myself, you know what? That's okay. I will find my way being who I am. I don't need to be that shuck and jive goof ass like so many people in the industry were. I can't be that. I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be me. And I will find my way. And here I sit today. I found my way being who I am, doing it the way I believed it needed to be done.
Okay.
So
Flip side of that.
That no changed me and got me to think a little bit differently, but it also reinforced me to stay the course.
Okay, so flip side of that. You're doing the hiring during your career, and you told somebody no, that you were wrong about it, end up being super successful.
Well, I've never really been in that position to hire somebody knowing that, you know, so that's tough for me to answer because I haven't done that. You know, so.
You ever fired anybody?
Nope, never did that either.
Oh my God, I've never done that. I kind of want to do that one day. I know it's fucked up, but I kind of do want to fire somebody one day.
I mean, you know, there are people I work with that I was hoping would get fired, sure. And if I had that power, I would have wielded it, but I didn't have that power.
So K2 Artist Management, how long has that been in existence? Who are you guys managing?
K2 has been in existence now probably since 2021. I mean, uh, for people have been asking me to go into management for a very long time, and I always push back on it, but I made the decision to do it finally. And I was working with three acts out of Canada when I first started.
Mhm.
Um, and it was good, but when when our contract was up, I kind of said, you know what, I started to pivot because I wanted to help more artists. And
Mhm.
I said to myself, if I just work with a handful of artists, that's 24/7, 365 days a year. I can't help more people. So I made the decision to get out of that and then pivot to become more of an artist management consultant and coach. So it gives me an opportunity to work with many more artists. I'm not managing them, but when they need, help with aspects of their career, be it career development, marketing, business plan, things that they need help with, I'm able to work with them. So it allows me the opportunity to work with so many more artists and help more artists by doing it that way. So that's what it is today, more of an consulting and coaching
Mhm.
from a management perspective for artists. And same thing with the Entertainment Sponsorship Group was my brand sponsorship agency. I've had that since 2002. And same thing, about 4 years ago, I pivoted that to become more of a consultant and coach because I felt that learning about brand sponsorships is a skill set that every
Mhm.
artist, every manager, booking agent, venue owner, festival producer, event producer should know how to do. Brand
Okay.
sponsorships are one of the top 5 revenue streams for an artist, but most artists don't take advantage of that because they don't know how to do it. So I got to a point where it's like, I need to start teaching people how to do this and show them how to do this. And that's why I pivoted, not taking on clients to go find them sponsors anymore. I want to teach people how to do this. And that's what I'm doing with that.
Is it easier to make money as an artist now or when you first started out?
I mean, you have an opportunity now because there's so many other different revenue streams that an artist can tap into
Mhm.
versus, look, when you're signed to a label, and back in the old music model, you had your touring and, you were making most of your money off of your, album
Yeah.
sales, CD sales, cassette sales at the time when
Really?
physical product was, happening. As long as you paid off your debt load to the label, you started to earn your percentages on sales. It was a whole different ball game. I a lot of times, it depends on it depends on your deal. I know with the Goo Goo Dolls, they were in a lot of debt because Metal Blade was part of Warner Brothers, and they had done those albums on Metal Blade, and they had racked up a lot of debt because the albums weren't selling that great, and they kept doing new ones. And when A Boy Named Goo came out and Name exploded, and I think that album at the time had sold like 8 million copies in the States.
Gee.
And from what I was told, that all of their percentages that they should have been getting for the sales had went to go pay off the debt. They really didn't make a lot of money off of that album. It wasn't until the next album that they really started
Make
to
some money.
make some money because they were in a huge debt load to the label.
You ever look at somebody and say, because the music industry is notorious for fucking people over.
Oh yeah.
And you ever look at somebody and you look at their contract before you look at them, and you already know where the road they're going to travel.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if it's an unfair contract, you would hope that, their legal team and management would be, explaining things to them. But back in the old days, right, management tried to keep the artist in the dark on many things. They
That's so
they
that's
didn't
so fucked up.
they didn't know a lot. I mean, and then the artist just surrounds themselves with people who, sometimes don't have their best interest at hand. I mean, look at,
Mm.
is it Rihanna? She was it Rihanna? She was bankrupt not too long ago, and now she's the first female billionaire.
I did not know that. I didn't know she
I
really.
mean, it's crazy. Artists surround themselves sometimes with just the wrong group of people who, And it's up to the artist to understand their business, right? They need to have an understanding of what's going on financially on the management side. And I think artists today, are a lot smarter. And I think management has learned, to include them in the business of what's happening, because if they are a true team, they should. But, I can't tell you, a lot of times through my career, I'd be with an artist and they didn't know what was going on. And
Okay, so
and there were things that I knew, and sometimes I was told, "Don't talk to the artist about what's going on at the label."
that's fucked
With
up.
with their project, and that's hard to be in that situation when they start asking you questions, and you know darn well you're sitting there thinking, "Wow, they have no idea," and there's problems happening, and I can't say a word to them.
You don't feel fucked up when you go home?
Yeah, I felt bad about that, really bad. But if I would have done something about, if I would have said something, I know I don't have a job the next day. And, in this industry, it's a close-knit community. Word gets out that, you can't be trusted.
It's a wrap.
I might not find my way back into another label.
Okay, so you wake up tomorrow and I have bestowed upon you, you are the CEO of Universal Music Group, and you get to sign 3 artists and or groups, living or dead. Who do you sign?
Oh boy. Who do I sign? Well, I mean, call me a homer, but I'd bring Rick James back. I just loved his music, and what it did for me growing up. I mean, I think that was huge. Look, U2 is already signed to Universal, so I guess I couldn't sign them, even though as much as I would want to. Let's see, who do you bring back? Do you resurrect Queen? Maybe I resurrect Queen if Freddie Mercury was back, and do that, or David Bowie. You look at some of the influential, people out there in music, and there's some great ones. That's a tough question. There's way more than 3 for sure.
Rock wise, I would go Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, that could be cool. That could be
I
cool.
just fucked with Nirvana. Like they were just they were different.
Yeah, I mean, I had a chance to be on that tour. When I was at Island Records, we had the Meat Puppets, and we opened up on that tour when that was all exploding. So I was at a lot of those shows, watching it all unfold and watching it happen, which was
So you've seen Smells Like Teen Spirit perform live?
Oh yeah.
What?
One of the shows was here in Detroit at the Michigan State Fairgrounds, and that big tin hangar they had over there.
Yo, what's that like though? Because that song redefined MTV like in a heartbeat.
Every time they played that song, you just felt the earth shake. Not only because they were loud, but the people just jumping up and down. You felt like you were just rising. It was a very, very interesting feeling to be a part of that and be in the middle as you're standing there watching that show happen. And as soon as that first chord is hit, it was like, you're like, wow. There was an energy that I've never felt at all. And think about it. I mean, that music was so different, right? That sound, that sonic sound that they created, and that didn't happen overnight. That grunge sound was being built and refined in Seattle over a long period of time. All of those, you got Nirvana, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, all those guys were playing with each other in different bands and different things. And when it all, settled down, that's where it happened. It was Nirvana. It was Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. They all that's how it all ended. But all of those guys, that sound had been being built for like almost 10 years in Seattle.
Pearl Jam was crazy too.
What was that?
Pearl Jam was
Yeah,
crazy too.
another great band.
Yeah, it's a couple. There's a few like over the years. You'd be surprised. As a young brother in Detroit, but there's certain bands and or songs that just resonate with everybody. I was talking about that the other day. Oh shit. It's a Bon Jovi song, and I can't remember. It's just a couple of songs over the years. It just, man, when it comes on, doesn't matter where you're at, who you're with, everybody knows that song.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of music.
Beauty of music, and a lot of those older groups, they define their sound, and you could have your eyes closed and just hear it, and you're like, I know exactly who that is, right? They dialed in their formula and their sound of what it is, which is great, and they laid the foundation for everything, so much that's happening today, and that's the way it goes. I mean, it just keep building upon all that.
Who's got a perfect album to you?
Oh man, I don't know if there's a perfect album, but
oh man, Snoop Dogg's first album is a perfect album for me.
I mean, I'm a big Genesis fan too, so some of the early Genesis things, with Peter Gabriel and
Phil Collins is tragically underrated despite being a superstar, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. I agree. That guy can do it all. And it wasn't easy for him, when he took over doing lead vocals for Genesis. I mean, he had some big shoes to fill, and it wasn't easy, and still play drums and do everything that he did. But
That's the crazy part.
He helped take that band to a whole nother level.
Oh my God. Okay, Pink Floyd or Fleetwood Mac?
Depends what mood I'm in. Man, I like both of them growing up. Good gosh. I've seen both perform. I mean, if I went on performance, the Floyd shows are definitely a unique experience that you have to, well, people won't be able to do that anymore today, but back then, yeah, it was great. So I might pick Floyd only because I was more of a rock guy. Not that Fleetwood Mac wasn't rock at the time, but they had their crossover into mainstream.
Yeah. Okay, Guns N' Roses or Aerosmith?
I'll go to Aerosmith.
They got the bigger songs. But
yeah,
Guns N' Roses told stories unlike very many artists ever. It just made sense to me when they I don't know. Oh, Steven Tyler is fucking crazy. If people want to get in contact with you, how do they go about doing that?
Well, I mean, you can reach out, my websites. That's the best way to do it. You can go to DetroitMusicCollective.com, K2ArtistManagement.com, or the EntertainmentSponsorshipGroup.com. That's the best way to my contacts on there. Email me, call me. Right now we got, our other initiative that the Music Collective is doing is the Music Census here in Detroit. So that's a big initiative that we're doing, the first ever music census that's ever done for this region. And we're excited about doing this, and the data that we're going to be able to accumulate from this census is hopefully going to help us, make viable change to the community here. It's like I said, it's a very in-depth study. This survey is going to, we don't really know. Nobody here knows what the music ecosystem looks like. Right. I think for years, everyone's thought they knew or they assumed what it is, but nobody has a handle on it because there's never been any true data to show us what's working, what's not working, what can be changed. So this census is going to give us that. And there's 10 different indicators that the census is going to cover. It's going to cover you as an artist. It'll do that. Venue profiles. There's an industry profile for people working in the industry. It's going to get into workforce development, music-friendly policies at the city level, government, county government, your culture and belonging, livability, economic activity, ecosystem development, ecosystem composition, economic development, workforce development. So it covers a lot of areas. We're going to be able to see, as I said, how individuals in the music industry here work and what's working for them and what's not working for them. And how do we help make a viable change for the better?
Is there anything that I didn't ask you feel like I should have?
No, we covered quite a bit, man. You brought me back to thinking about some things that I hadn't thought about in my career. And, sometimes, and I love doing, these types of interviews because it does kind of bring me back. And sometimes I forget about, the things that I have done and and everything that I've done has helped me where I am today to help make a difference and be able to give back. And as I said before, I'm in a unique position, a very privileged position to have done what I've done, because not everybody gets that opportunity.
Man, and if you just feel like giving back to the fat dude in his basement doing a podcast, the Google Dolls and YouTube and Urbano, I need them on the show. Last question. Is there a favorite venue for you in the Detroit area to go watch a show?
I think for me, all these years and as many shows as I've had, some of the coolest things, were in the Shelter.
Yo, and the Shelter crosses every age group, every color spectrum. Like the Shelter has been, man. Yes, I got
so many acts that I worked with, at the labels. When they come to Detroit, that was usually kind of one of the first shows that they would get to introduce them, to introduce it to the market. And I can't tell you how many artists I've worked with that then just, blew up and all of a sudden, they're playing the Palace or they're playing Pine Knob, right? They grew. And that's for me, that's probably one of the most, joyful part of my career, to be part of acts that nobody ever knew and be on the team to help make them a superstar.
That's so dope.
And that's why, sitting behind me, I have only certain plaques up in my office, and it's the ones that have always motivated me because anything is possible.
Okay. Who is that right behind the young lady?
Well, that's the Almost Famous soundtrack. The movie Almost Famous. So when I was at DreamWorks, that was a DreamWorks film, and when we had the soundtrack, right next to that double platinum there is Nelly Furtado, and Nelly Furtado broke out of Detroit.
I did not know that.
Yes, another one. She played the Seventh House the very first time she came here. She played the Seventh House in Pontiac to a crowd of about 15 people. And now she's a global superstar.
Yo, that's so fucking dope.
And I worked with her right from the beginning.
So were you there with the 15 people?
Oh, yeah.
Yo, did she give the same energy as when she did a stadium?
Without a doubt. And that's what blew me away. Because, you got to remember, go put yourself back to when I'm Like a Bird was on the radio. That was a very difficult song that was so left of center. I didn't think we could ever get it to mainstream.
Yo, now that is a story, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure if I could ever do anything for you. I doubt it. However, if there's something you need, please don't hesitate to ask, and we got you. It's been just an absolutely phenomenal conversation, of which I cannot possibly thank you enough.
Oh man, thank you for having me, man. This has been great, and just. If I can ask one thing, just tell everyone in the music industry in this area about the music census and take it when it goes live on February 3rd.
Gotcha. Will do. On that note, we out of here. You have a phenomenal evening on purpose. And again, my many thanks to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yo, that's fucking. I really am a really lucky individual. I have had the honor and privilege of talking to some fucking amazing people that have done some phenomenal shit over the years. And I remember having a conversation with Nika, my middle daughter. I was telling her that like the show is never gonna make money while I'm living. But when I pass, they're gonna have 1,000 shows of greatness because what you do gets you on the show, but it's your story that makes you stand out. And Kevin K is a prime example of that. And I might add, I forgot to say that I think that it became easier with the bigger names, at least for me, when I realized that my own value. And I would argue that especially people behind the scenes, um, when they realize how integral they are to person A's success, I think it makes things so much easier. Anyway, I'll be back at 7 o'clock. We got the four tops. Y'all have a good one. Peace. I'll put the clips out later. Out of here. Oh, it's been Job. There's been another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio and blah 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 blah. All streaming services. Y'all already know. Peace.